What's good, everybody, and welcome to your secret segment for the month of November.
I
almost said October, and then I remembered, nope, it's not October anymore.
No.
It's crazy to think that we're almost to the end of the year and that it's going to be 2019 in just like 6 weeks.
I'm sad we had to retire our pumpkins, specifically my pumpkin.
Well,
Wait,
you could still
did
take
you-
them home.
Yeah, you have a suitcase that TSA keeps looking at.
Oh, that's just what I
may
need
as
to
well
do.
fill
Oh
it
my
with a
god, can you
pumpkin.
please put the pumpkins in
God.
there?
Yes.
And then like
Yes, can you imagine? I wish you could have like a little camera to record whoever opens that, because I'm sure they'll like.
I'm thinking
do a jump
about
scare.
starting a pen pal relationship with TSA agents, because every time I travel, ladies and gentlemen, my suitcase gets checked. I open it up and there's one of those little slips of paper in there, and I've always wondered why. What is it about my suitcase? At first, I thought it was because I didn't have a proper luggage tag on it, so I added one. And then Andrea and Sam are like,
Yeah, the luggage
probably...
tag was real suspicious.
Well, because it's just like a gray metallic-y...
Not that you're taking a couch-sized suitcase with you for 72 hours.
It's not couch-sized. It's cushion sized.
It is that size.
It's pretty large.
Listen.
And like we lovingly give you a hard time about this because it is such a short trip. But Steimer and I let her know like that's why she's getting TSA checked all the time, because it's a 48-hour trip and she's bringing
Enough
3 weeks worth of clothing.
100%. That makes sense. That's fine.
So clearly they're
They're
like,
like,
you must be
"What's in
smuggling
here?"
a small child in there.
Small child, some drugs.
So we're so glad that you guys are here. Obviously, you are a fantastic group of humans in our secret segment tier on patreon.com/whatsgoodgames, or maybe you're watching this at youtube.com/whatsgoodgames after it enters its non-exclusive period. If for any reason you decide, hey, you know what, I really like this piece of content, and you want to maybe be part of our cool kids club on Patreon, we'd love that. We would really just welcome you with open arms. So
Arms wide open.
you think about it. We decided this.
I was going, and now I run to you. with
Oh, that's good
Oh,
too.
that's classic.
They don't like my arms wide. Creed, arms wide open.
You know,
Under the sunrise.
If we could just never talk about Creed,
Well,
that'd
yeah,
be
I think
okay.
that would be the best.
place.
Journey, I will talk about all day
Show
long.
you
Let's go, Journey.
everything.
Do you know Journey?
Yes.
I was
Okay,
like,
good.
if she doesn't,
Listen, for
We
a
gonna have
hot
a
second, I
problem.
thought she was gonna be like, no,
With arms wide open.
and I wouldn't be surprised. We're just gonna let her muppet on over there. By the way, Brittany got me this cat mug.
I did. It's okay.
It has a lid with ears on it, and I never know what to use the lid for.
yeah, the lid's a little
It's
bit
cute,
of a
but
puzzle.
like,
Because like, why would you?
Why,
Why would you
lid.
need it?
Unless you want to keep it warm.
but
I
I'm
mean, sure,
drinking
but like
it.
you're drinking. Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of
I know
practical-
it's cute though.
it real cute.
So as per usual, we're off topic and we've just started. We're gonna be changing up this tier probably in the not too distant future, but until then, we hope that you guys thoroughly enjoy our segment for this month, which is our favorite SNES games of all time.
I'm glad that you say SNES, because I had a friend who insisted it was Snes.
No, people
I
like
will
that.
fight that
just-
person.
Yeah,
You
I've
should
heard
fight
that
this
too.
person.
I know there's somebody listening right now that's like, I say Sneds.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's like he was British, so I don't know if it's like a
No.
European thing.
it's not, because I remember when the SNES Classic was released, this
Yeah.
whole thing got brought up again, and everyone's like, "Do you say SNES or SNES or SNES?" It's like
SNES.
there's only one right way to say this, ladies and gentlemen.
For all the youngsters out there, of course, we are referring to the Super Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yes. That mini console thing that just came out a little while ago. You may not know what it was, but that's what it was.
It was an amazing console back in the day. I thought that it would be fun to maybe recount some history about it before we jump into what our favorite games of all time were. This was my second console.
I think this was my first.
This was my first console. I think I had been playing games on PC already, but this was my first console.
Yes, I'd also been playing on PC.
I remember getting my Super Nintendo during Christmas. I think I was 4 or 5. I remember unwrapping it. I'm like, yeah, this is fucking awesome.
Is that what you felt inside your little 4-year-old head?
100%. I didn't know how to articulate it, but I felt warm and fuzzy and full of joy and happiness.
Just a little bit from the Wikipedia article, just to kind of flavor the conversation. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System, officially abbreviated Super NES or SNES, or colloquially shortened to Super Nintendo, is a 16-bit home video game console developed by Nintendo that was released in 1990 in Japan and South Korea, and 1991 in North America, and 1992 in Europe and Australia, in parentheses, Oceania, and in 1993 in South America. In Japan, the system is called Super Famicom, or SFC for short. In South Korea, it is known as the Super Comboy, and was distributed by Hyundai Electronics. Interesting fact. The system was released in Brazil in 1993. I don't know why that's not included in South America. And although each version is essentially
its own weird beast.
That's very true. Several forms of the region lockout prevented the different versions from being compatible with one another. I thought that was interesting. The SNES was a global success, becoming the best-selling console of the 16-bit era, despite its relatively late start and intense competition it faced in North America and Europe from Sega's Genesis console. The SNES remained popular well into the 32-bit era, having sold 49.1 million worldwide, compared to NES's 61.9 million. It continues to be popular among collectors and retro gamers, some of whom still homebrew ROM images in addition to popularity Nintendo's emulated releases, such as Virtual Console Environment. So just the number of consoles sold, I think, is kind of an interesting thing to think about, knowing where console sales are today.
Right.
Thinking about where Switch is at, I think hovering between 20 and 25 million right now. Worldwide, and Nintendo's own goal is to have 40 million sold by March 31st, the end of their fiscal year, which is
wow.
That's a
order.
lofty goal.
Aggressive.
Yeah.
But obviously PlayStation over 85 million units around the world, PlayStation 4, and then Xbox One.
Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe today they'll announce it.
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, no.
Doubtful.
Welcome to this amazing thing. Here's our sales numbers. We're losing.
Yeah, we're losing. Please, for the love of God, love us again.
Oh, unless
here's these things we're trying to win you back with.
Final Fantasy 15 give us side depressing. Okay, anyway, yeah. So,
anyways,
yeah.
So that's just a little bit of history about this console. I'm sure all of you out there are familiar with it or have heard of it. But I think sometimes, we don't stop to think about like the history of where these consoles came from, and really just reading the year it came out reminds me just how long ago it was.
Oh my God.
And really why people were so excited about the Super NES Classic that came out last year.
Nostalgia, man.
I am glad that I didn't buy it. Someone sent it to us, I think. But
yes,
I'm eating my own words.
I
am glad
Professor
I have
Metal
that
Gear
guy.
sent it.
He may have. But I do
right.
like having it around, and I played through Donkey Kong Country all over again, so that was good times.
Yeah. Now it's just sitting in the closet, lonely.
Mine's still on my
I know I should put it on the
TV
set
stand.
somewhere.
Mm-hmm. When I was doing my own personal YouTube channel, that's youtube.com/blonde nerd, I made my top 15 definitive favorite Super Nintendo games.
How long ago was this list made?
That's a great 4 years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
Maybe. And I had to remind myself what the definitive list was, because you see, it took a very long time to come up with that and put everything in the proper order. So 15
is a lot.
It is a lot.
I didn't even own 15 games for the SNES.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh.
Games were expensive.
They still are.
No, I know, but especially back then, it was a tall order for us as a family to buy the games. Mm-hmm. So we would only usually we had definitely less than 10. I want to say we probably had 5 or 6, and that includes the game it came with, which was Super Mario
World.
And so yeah, so we didn't have, so I would not be able to do
I'm trying to think. Actually, that's a really good point.
You're I got 5.
I had
I could do 15 easy.
I probably had close to 40 or 50, I'd say.
Whoa, yeah.
I had a bunch, yeah.
But then again, my grandma and my entire dad's side of the family all played games, so that's all I would get for Christmas.
We were the only
games. Such a good life.
So my dad played PC games, but we were the only ones that really played the console. So it was just for us, so we didn't really get a lot, and we would just play those games over and over and over again because it was all you had.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's most gamers, right?
Yeah.
Is that they can afford a handful of games at the most, and then you want to get replayability out of it, which is why it's such a big topic in current gaming discussions about value in games and the price of games and what you're getting for the price, and why people, get very upset about, lack of value in games.
Sure.
But somehow I never seem to appreciate value in games. Funny how that works. So, Brittany, let's start with you.
You got to give the Scooby snacks before you can detract.
Yes. And this is in no particular order. Us talking about the games are really just games that we have fond memories of or things that we love. We're not ranking them or anything like that. We're just kind of recounting some of our all-time favorites.
Okay, so I have a few obscure games on here that
I want to know your number one. I don't even care. I know that we shouldn't go that way, or maybe number 5. All right.
What do you want?
I immediately said we're not ranking it, and then Summer was like, "Give me your number one."
Because she actually
I have a list.
She did actually.
Okay, what number do you
rank
want?
them. I want to see what's number 5.
Number 5 is Super Mario World.
Okay.
I think that's a game that if you talk to anyone about Super Nintendo, what's some of your fondest memories? Super Mario World. Yeah. I remember what I loved about that game so much was I played it with my dad all the time. Even to this day, he'll come over and we'll just freaking fire up Super Mario World and just play. And I was so young and so new to video. It was my first video game ever. So it's so funny to think about distinct memories that I have while playing that. For example, when you find a door in that game, you press up on the D-pad and it opens the door. Right. My dad, I love him very much, but he's not good at the video games. And I was only like 4 or 5. And I remember like sitting there and praying, like literally praying to some Lord above me to help my dad learn how to open up a door. Because he was standing in front of this door and he like
couldn't just pushing
every button but up on the D-pad. I don't even know what he was pushing.
Couldn't you just be like, push? I am baby, push.
Oh, maybe. I mean, he was playing. I don't know. I remember
maybe she was respecting her dad's time with the controller and wasn't trying to backseat game him.
Oh,
I would have backseat game the shit out of him if he took too long.
Because I didn't know any better. It was his turn. He was Luigi and I was Mario, of course. And
Luigi.
We were in a castle, and I remember he just standing in front of this door, and I'm like, oh man, he can't get it. And I was like, please, Lord above me, help my father open this door. And then finally he did. And I'm like, that's cool.
4-year-old Brittany was intense.
Man. I had a demonic voice like that and everything.
Yeah, please.
Oh, man.
That is a great selection. That is number 2 for me if I was going to like pick a top 3. But there's just so many games from that system that I really loved. One of my all-time favorites, of course, arguably one of my all-time favorite games of all time across all systems is, of course, Super Mario Kart.
Oh, yeah.
The definitive Mario Kart.
Back then. I've only played like newer Mario Kart.
That's number 7 on my list.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I spent hours and hours and hours and hours playing that with not only my sister, but like the neighborhood kids, playing with my dad until we started beating him. I did have friends.
I didn't have any friends. I played with my sister.
I also played with my sister, but there was this one neighbor girl because my parents were divorced, and so I had like the friends that are at my dad's house, and then I had the friends that are at my mom's house.
Sure.
And she would always come over and play with us, and then I think she had this guy friend that would come over every once in a while, but I don't remember him at all. But I remember her. Her name was Darcy. We did a lot of running around as kids together.
I also love that game. And I'm typically not a fan of racers, but obviously the Mario Kart game is just kind of a league of its own. But I would play that game really weird. I mean, I played a lot of my games weird. I would LARP in a lot of my games. So what I would do is
You were LARPing as a 4-year-old too?
I was probably, I don't know when this one came out, so I don't know.
Super Mario Kart came out in 1992.
Okay, so I definitely, maybe I was like 5 or 6 when I was playing this. But what I would do is I would do the one-on-one multiplayer race, and I would plug in a second controller. And I would drive.
Did you pretend like you had a friend?
No.
Oh, ouch!
I'm like,
I almost spit-taked my coffee.
I don't know why you would plug in another.
Because I'm getting there.
No, I know.
You just hopped to the worst possible conclusion.
That's how
that's the Steimer
thing. I would
thing.
drive in the opposite direction, so I would never finish the map, and then I would just pretend I was on a beach and like little islands on Koopa Beach, the track. I would pretend like I lived on that, and I was on a tropical vacation / lived there, and I would tell stories and drive around the characters.
Wait, why did you need the other controller?
Because I could be 2 characters in that point. I could make like, okay, I'm gonna go over here. Okay, Bobacus, I'm gonna go over here. Bobacus. I don't even know.
Hello, Bobacus.
I did that with a lot of games.
You made up fake names for the people your imaginary.
My imaginary friends. My imaginary friends, and it's like weird stories, like in Lion King, which is also on my list. The Lion King Super Nintendo game. I would never get past the first level. That is number 14 on my list.
Steimer? Do you have one?
I mean, so the games that I had, we'll just go through because it literally was 5 of them. I had Aladdin, I had The Lion King, we had Bubsy, we had Super Mario World, obviously,
Isn't Bubsy
and
coming
Donkey
back?
Kong Country. What?
Isn't Bubsy coming back? Didn't they just announce
There's
the thing?
something happening with Bubsy. I don't know how I feel about it because the first one was the only one I liked. The rest were not great. But the first one we played so much because, again, we played all of those 5 repeatedly because it was all we had. But like even to this day, I still think about Bubsy. I think about between each level, they would have like a weird like 2-second cutscene with Bubsy saying something, and like it was the name of the level. So I can't remember the exact name of the level or anything, but it was a high level, like you're up in the trees or some shit, and then the Bubsy's like, "Oh, did I mention I'm afraid of heights?" And like he falls down. And so like there's stupid like quips and lines like that constantly play in my head as an adult. And when somebody says anything, it triggers in my brain, and I like play the Bubsy line. And I've learned to not say it out loud anymore because I used to, but
People are like, "What are you doing?"
No, yeah, everyone would be like, "Okay, the fuck."
How would you describe what Bubsy looks like for people who are like, I don't know this Bubsy guy?
Bubsy, I mean, the game is just it's a side-scrolling platformer. The original. Then there was Bubsy 3D, which we shall not talk about ever again. But the original was just a side-scrolling platformer. Bubsy is a bobcat, and he is sort of like tall and lanky, has this red shirt. I think it has a yellow bee on it. And he's just like a cute little furry guy.
He kind of looks like Garfield in the eyes and the cheeks, but he's got the bigger ears. So Bubsy the Bobcat brings his next adventure to the Nintendo Switch in 2019.
Oh no. I'm
Bubsy
scared.
paws on fire.
He kind of looks like Garfield's perverted like uncle.
Can you flip it? I don't know what his new art looks like. Oh no, they go for the it's not a B, it's an exclamation point. That's right. Those were the lives too. Like you'd find the shirts and you would collect them. Yeah, that looks fairly true to what the original was. I think the original was a little bit taller, lankier.
We are playing
fur
a
in
little
the
teaser
face.
trailer.
Is it a platformer again?
Let's see.
I hope so.
Accolade is developing from the makers
Please
of
don't be
Runner
3D.
3. I
Please
wonder
don't
if
be
it's just
3D.
I wonder if it's just going to be a runner.
Please don't be
Bubsy
3D.
as you've never seen him before.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Wait, what?
well,
That's
it's like
3D.
2D, 3D.
It's kind of like that one Sonic game
Yeah.
that mixes the
kinda
3D
goes
and the
the
2D
same.
elements.
Oh, Woolies. I forgot about that.
Interesting.
But yeah, so like you're going around, you're collecting balls of yarn, you're collecting t-shirts for lives, and you like every end level, you fight like the Woolsey guys, which are like aliens, or at least they're in an alien spaceship, and you have to like bounce on the thing 3 times, but it's shooting yarn at you and like whatever. But those were in games in general back then. Their replayability was based on the fact that you couldn't really save. And you just died. Like you ran out of lives and that was it. Like you were donezo.
the original roguelike.
Yep.
Did you ladies ever play Cool Spot?
No.
That was I think the 7-Up logo. He had his own little game.
Oh, I totally remember
And he would
that
snap his
thing.
fingers. And is it
Wait, you
Sprite?
have to pay for that?
No, it was, I don't know what it was. Cool Spot.
Pay for a branded game?
That sounds right. In the 90s? Yeah.
That
makes
That was
sense.
odd. I had a lot of fun with that. I think I liked the sound that it made as he collected some. Okay, I'm going to find this.
You look it up.
I'm going to.
I'm going to talk about another one of my all-time favorites that I'm desperately hoping is going to come to Nintendo Switch or return and get like a remake, or what I would really like is a reboot of F-Zero. So I loved arcade racers as a kid, and I still love them as an adult and don't play them enough. I really want to spend more time with Forza Horizon 4 because it's a beautiful, really fun game, and the Horizon series is like the closest thing I'm going to get, I think, to a true Burnout game.
Yeah.
Until, Burnout ever maybe comes back, fingers crossed. So F-Zero is essentially a space racer where all of the cars are kind of like hover cars. Did you ever play?
No, I've never played, but I've seen it, I think, on the back of is it in the NES Classic?
Yeah, I think it is in the classic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think I've seen like screens or whatever on it in there, but I've never played it.
Yeah, it is in the classic because I remember we played it on the stream that
That's
one time.
why. I'm like, I've seen this, but I don't know why. That's why, because we played it on stream once.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
was
so
a
it
while ago.
obviously follows a lot of the same principles that most racing games do, but it kind of pulled a little bit of the mechanics from Mario Kart in the sense that different drivers have different strengths. So, you're heavies, you're fast, but they're, more easily damaged. And the bumpers along the track that you're on, if you hit the sides, it would damage your vehicle. You had to repair it in these certain strips off to the side. And the music in that game was just so good. Each track so iconic with the course that you were on. And I just loved that game. And of course, because it's a racing game, it brought out my highly competitive nature.
Oh boy.
So
That sounds right.
yeah, it was really fun. I think Big Blue was maybe the course I liked the best. Let's see here.
Big Blue. It is the 7-Up game. It's a little 7-Up red guy. That's the one after all.
Fucking
You
weird
would
that
shoot
they
7-Up out of your hand, like Spidey.
No, I don't want to hear the ad. I want to hear the
don't?
Big Blue music.
Big Blue, dabu dee dab.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's classic.
So good. Wait. This is definitely not my favorite. It's my second favorite.
Oh, it's good though.
I'm going to have to figure out what my favorite one
Figure
is.
it
wait,
out.
no,
So while she's
this
doing
isn't
that,
it.
Stammer,
Yes.
do you have any other games you love so much? Or did you already talk about all
the
of them?
Doy, the one that I
Doy.
replayed.
Donkey Kong Country?
Donkey Kong Country. Speaking of phenomenal music,
Oh my
the
god.
music in that game is incredible and classic, and I can play like that whole soundtrack in my
Me
head
too.
to
and I-
myself.
Yep. I think my favorite soundtrack in that game is either the minecart one or the oil barrel, whatever, or the winter
Winter is good.
Yeah.
I like the underwater music a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
The underwater music is so
I'm
cool.
gonna find that oil barrel.
Honestly,
we
like
should just do video game
all
music.
of the music in that game is phenomenal.
So good.
And the game still holds up because I just played it last year and had a great time with it. And I was like, fuck yeah, I would play this on my Switch all the time if this existed there.
Someday, I really hope that Virtual Console becomes a thing. And I know that's something we've talked about quite a bit on the show, and that a lot of you out there who are obviously fans of Nintendo like we are hoping for too. But like, I don't know. I just think it's such an easy way for Nintendo to keep making money off of their library.
I will pay you more for it, and like
I will buy it again.
I will buy it again
against my better
I
judgment.
will keep buying
Yeah,
this
that's the
game.
thing. We will complain about it until the cows come home, but we will buy it.
We'll still do it.
And
yeah.
I forgot. I remember like going to beat that game, and then I had forgotten that it fucking ends in a fake out. Like, you beat him, but then he gets back up. But since I was like taking a fucking photo because I was like, oh, I
Spoilers.
beat the game. Any spoilers for a game from 1990? Shut up. But and then he gets back up and like stomps on me, and I was like, fuck.
Yeah, because you beat King K. Rool, and then the credits start rolling, and
Yes.
so you're like, oh yeah, I did it, and
yeah,
he's
I
like,
did it.
LOL.
And then it
JK.
was like, lol. And I was so mad.
That's an awesome credit scene too, because it has
Yeah.
all the little dudes, all the enemies go by.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest games that exists, in my opinion.
It's a good
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. Down in history as one of the best. One of my top 10 favorite games of all time, not just for the SNES, is Mortal Kombat 2, which came out on this system. And I distinctly remember playing this game and having a piece of paper with all of the combos, like the fatality combos, like written out. So that way when I was playing against my sister or my dad, I would just like look at my
Oh
cheat
my god, you
sheet.
need a cheat sheet.
Oh yeah, I
It's like
definitely
in
did.
school. You're like, no, don't pay attention to what's written over there.
There's so many characters, I couldn't remember them all. So I wrote them down,
I mean, fair.
right?
I have some fun co-op games on the SNES. Did you ladies ever play Zombies Ate My Neighbors?
No, I think we've talked about this before. You brought this game up.
Okay, so Zombies Ate My Neighbors. This is like crazy game where obviously you can play as two people, and they're zombies and they ate your neighbors, and you have to kill them. And it's just kind of
What kind of a game is it?
it's a top down. I don't know what it's actually. It's called a shooter, but it's
Shoot 'em
not.
up?
It's shoot 'em up, sure, but
Shoot 'em up?
you can move up, down, left, right, and it's all top down. And it's this crazy cuckoo bananas game. Like I said, there's big giant babies that you have to destroy that chase you.
You mean big giant zombie babies?
Big giant zombie babies. That one
There's
is
a
really fun.
distinction
That sounds
there.
great.
Goof Troop.
Giant zombie babies. Okay.
Yeah.
Goof Troop was a really fun co-op game as well. Bomberman. I mean, there's just a lot of them. Super Mario All Stars.
Yeah, no, we would.
Oh, I was just thinking about Super Mario All Stars.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's so many.
I don't know if I played that All Stars.
It just has a whole bunch of games on it. Of the Mario games, it's a compilation thing.
I think the way my sister and I would do it was we would just pass the controller back and forth, or like the way that the games worked was just like it would have you would play the next turn. There was no like true co-op games that we had.
Yeah. I could talk about this console all time. So just like shut me up if you have something interesting to say.
Sure.
Or even not
if you
interesting.
have something interesting to say.
I mean, I do it from time to time.
But only if you
That
have
was one
something
of those
interesting
things
to
where I
say.
said, I was like, that did not come out like I intended it to.
The thing about the Super NES is that it's one of I mean, there's an argument to be made that it is the best console ever created, right? Not only because of its vast, diverse library of software, but also because of what it did for video games, the video game industry, and video game consoles, at its time, and how it led to or paved the way for the modern console systems that we have today. I mean, obviously, like the tech is always going to get better, the games are always going to get cooler, but
Except Donkey Kong.
well, yeah, classic holds up.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just so much to love about this system. I think that's why there was such a fever when the classic edition was announced last year. But Brittany, there's a bunch of Final Fantasy on this console.
I never played Final Fantasy on Super Nintendo.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, actually, I think I know why. So my very first RPG was Super Mario RPG, which is my
I keep meaning
second
to
favorite
go play
game.
that since I have it on the classic.
And it was at a time where Super Mario 64, when I played it, when Super Mario 64 was being teased in Nintendo Power magazines, and I would get those every month. And I remember seeing Super Mario 64 being advertised or being previewed. And I said, I want that game so bad. And so my mom must have told my aunt for some holiday that I wanted that Mario game. So instead of giving me Super Mario 64, I got Super Mario RPG. And it was not at all what I expected. And it actually I hated it at first. But it was because I didn't understand the mechanics of a turn-based RPG, the experience, the leveling up.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Today I feel the same way.
You still
What's happening in this game?
But I remember calling my aunt and asking her, like, what the hell is this? She's like, oh, you just have to defeat the enemies and get experience points and you'll get stronger. And then from then on, I was just hooked. But around that time, the N64 was coming out. And so I had kind of just missed all of the RPGs on the Super Nintendo. But Super Mario RPG is so good and it still holds up. And that, I think, is my favorite video game soundtrack. It's so fucking good.
I don't think I've ever heard the music from that game. I'll have to look it up after this.
Tonight, I'm going to
either.
fucking get that Wonder Boom thing or whatever it's called. And we're going to just crank that. Oh my God.
We were hanging out last night
Excited?
after shooting some stuff, and Brittany started cranking the Final Fantasy IX music. I'm like, what? Am I going into battle right now?
Yes.
It was a good time. I was dancing with a kitty and just hopping around. This is how I know like you ladies are my true friends because I'm a fucking dork. Just hopping around listening. And you guys didn't even blink an eye.
You did good.
Didn't even blink an eye.
Sometimes I forget just how big of a nerd you really are.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean that with all the love in my heart.
Oh, 100%. I embrace who I am. I am a nerd. A very big nerd.
We haven't really talked about your number one bae, though.
Yeah, which one is your number one?
Earthbound, of course. Is anyone surprised?
Oh
by
yeah.
this?
So here's the thing I find curious is I'm always like, should I play this? And you're like, you always kind of waffle on whether
do,
or not I
'cause
should play it.
It's not a game for everyone.
But
It's-
you know that you and I have very similar tastes.
you have to have patience if you're going to play this game. I mean, you're going to have. Okay, here's the thing: the game shipped with a strategy guide. That's how weird it is. Is because people are like, no one's going to understand how to play this game, so it shipped with a strategy guide.
So you
Do
would
you wanna
recommend
be my
looking at the
strategy
strategy
guide?
guide first?
Or you just want to be my strategy guy.
I would love to be your strategy guide. I
Should we
think we've
just
talked
FaceTime?
about doing this.
This sounds like a stream waiting to happen.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying.
No, we'll just FaceTime each other and be like, hey, what am I doing here?
We just need to stream this game. No, it's an acquired taste. It's also a turn-based RPG, but it's very weird, very quirky. I would say there's not another game out there like it. It's either you like it or you're like, this is weird. This is not for me. But Super Mario RPG, I feel like, is a much safer bet.
Sure.
If you're like, okay, one or the other, I would recommend that. Just because I think people will tend
But
to
I
like that
want to
one more.
play Earthbound because you keep talking about it, and so does Goldfarb. And I'm like, what is with this game?
Okay, yeah, that's like a great streaming idea then. I still have my original strategy guide, and also there's a million online that are really good. So let's do it.
I always wanted to play Chrono Trigger too, and I never did. It's
I
one of those
started
games.
playing it, and I never finished.
Well, obviously that's not the kind of game that I usually am attracted to,
Yeah.
but it's one of those definitive video game classics that you kind of have to at least experience a little bit.
Yeah.
But I still have just never like taken the time to dive into it and play. I feel happy with the time I've spent in Final Fantasy IX. I know that's not a SNES game, but I need to go slowly with the old school games because my patience for them is very minor.
Yeah.
If there's no nostalgia and love for that game, like I could go back to a game like Donkey Kong, and even though parts of that game haven't held up, overall it obviously has. I mean, you kind of overlook it because you're like, but this was just so great back in the day.
Yep.
What are you saying doesn't hold up?
Well, I'm saying like when you get used to looking at games and expecting them to play and look a certain way. And then when you go back to a 16-bit game, that's not like a brand new HD game designed to look like a 16-bit game, but that actually is a 16-bit game.
16-bit. Yeah, it's definitely
You know what I
fuzzier
mean?
than you remember.
Yeah.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, you're like, oh, am I drunk? No, it's just how it looks. But like, do you guys? I remember specifically 2 parts. You guys both played Aladdin and Lion King, yes?
Yes.
Just Lion King.
The 2 most.
Wait, you never played
frustrating-
Aladdin?
Wait,
I didn't.
Girl,
Man, I just wasn't.
it's one of my faves. And yes, it was definitively better on the Super NES than it was on the Genesis. Fight me.
I wouldn't know because I didn't have a Genesis, but I'd still like 2 of those levels in that game. The wildebeest level in Lion King and the lava level in Aladdin are like 2 levels that I still think about, not on the regular, but like whenever
When you're trying to escape from the Sphinx or whatever, the
when you're
Cave of
trying to-
Wonders.
when the Cave of Wonders escape scene, and then the escaping the wildebeest scene, and me just being like, I just have such strong memories of like being fucking frustrated and like real mad at these, but then feeling so accomplished when we finally got past them. And we were like, and now, and then eventually, because like it was one of those things where those games you would make a little progress, die, have to start all over, make a little progress, die, have to start all over, make a little progress, die. And like, so once we finally got to the point where the wildebeest level wasn't totally fucking us over every time, it was like, hallelujah. Same with the Cave of Wonders level.
Yeah, that was a controller throwing
Yeah.
game in those scenes for sure. I remember many a time like almost breaking my controller. My dad being like, "What? Calm down. Walk away." He's like, "Unless you're gonna buy another one," and I'm like, "I don't have any money, Dad.
I don't make any money. I'm a child. What are you talking
Like,
about?
I guess we'll be mowing the lawn from now until when you graduate." And I was like, "No."
mowing the lawn bad.
I hated mowing the lawn. Well, when I was young, like when I was before I got to high school, like it was a lot of work because you had to really push it because you're not so big.
yeah,
you know what I
they don't
mean?
have,
Yeah, but I used to get like $1.50 or something like that from.
Oh man.
Oh, those
I was
good
very-
old $50s.
I was very excited about it. You know,
You could
money,
buy
money
a-
went a lot farther back in my day.
You could buy a whiskey for that 50 cents in Red Dead.
Oh yeah.
Not in Saint Denis. They're like $4. Those
Are they?
jerks. Yeah, they're really expensive.
Oh.
Those fancy fuckers.
I've only gone to the cheap ass bars.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Like
one's-
I remember the first time I bought a drink in Saint Denis, and I was like, "Wait a minute, is that like $2, $3?" I was like, "I could buy a drink today for that price." What's happening?
Oh my god. They're very proud of their booze.
One of the games that I really love that I don't think ever really makes it onto anybody's like top 25 lists or top 10 lists,
Sure.
but that I just have a soft spot for was Dr. Mario.
Oh.
I like vividly remember that music over and over again. That dun 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 dun.
I'll shoulder shimmy.
No,
No.
I'm the only one?
No,
Yeah.
I didn't
Did you-
play Dr.
No,
Mario.
me neither.
Oh my gosh, it's like I spent so much time like because I obviously like most of the world loved Tetris, and it reminded me so much of Tetris in a lot of ways, but it combined Mario, who also I loved.
Mario.
And the puzzle element of it was really fun, and I just could sit and play that game by myself for hours upon hours upon hours. And it's one of those games that I think is so relatable because it's so approachable and easy and anybody can play it, and it holds up perfectly today because it's just such a simple puzzle game like Tetris. And why Tetris is the #1 selling game of all time is because no matter what language you speak, what part of the world you're from, what your skill level is, everybody can play Tetris. But then you see like these crazy Tetris pros that just competed in
man.
that
Yeah.
championship,
just
and you're
like-
like, it blows your mind that like high level Tetris play gets so
Superhuman.
wild. But at its core, it's like super easy for anybody to pick up and play. And I think games like that are so rare today. The idea that they are so simple at their face, but then so complex at the back end.
It's hard to design those.
Yeah. I mean, it really is.
They're usually free to play on mobile with buttloads of microtransactions.
Well, I mean, but even those aren't usually good. The only one that I think is really good from a puzzle perspective is Candy Crush, which is probably why it's as
Isn't
popular
that
as
mostly
it
just
is.
a match 3, or is it? I've
mean,
actually never played Candy Crush.
So it's a match 3 at the very beginning, but then as you get deeper and deeper into the game, they start adding in all of these extra elements about how the matches work, and then special items, and then there's like restrictions on the map, like, oh, we're gonna put like a block here and you have to work around it. And so like the strategy part of the puzzle elements of that game become much more complex.
Got it.
But then they
ramp
give
it
you,
up.
of course, like Britt says, ways to
And
buy
then
your
they're
way out
like,
of the
but
puzzles.
here you go. Would
Yeah.
you like to make this easier? Here, give us money.
Two
Yeah.
random ass games that I really liked on the Super Nintendo were Virtual Bart and Pink Goes to Hollywood.
Virtual Bart.
Virtual Bart, so Simpsons Bart.
Okay, that's what I was just wanting to make sure you weren't saying virtual bar.
No, but I did like the casino game on Super Nintendo. There was a casino
I was
game.
like, is this a liquor
and I would
game?
buy scratch tickets, and it was wonderful.
I would
and play
believe that your
blackjack.
parents would get you a virtual bar game.
I mean, they're not that crazy. Wait, do you say you do believe they
I
would?
do believe
I
they
do
would.
believe it too.
Yeah.
They'd be like, whatever, it's a video game. Who cares?
No, they're totally chill. They never had any issues with any of the games I tried playing. But yeah, Virtual Bart and Pink Goes to Hollywood. Someone out there has probably played one of them.
Wait, what's the other one?
Pink Goes to Hollywood, so Pink Panther.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Pink
Wait, what kind
Panther.
of a game was that?
A platformer. So there was
Okay.
different levels, obviously. You know, when you're pink
Did
and
you
hood.
climb the Hollywood sign?
Yes.
Yes, I would assume.
Yeah, you do that. There's a like Pink goes to oh no, then it's like a Robin Hood level. There's a level where you're shrunk. There's just a whole bunch of random things, but what I loved about that was you could plug in a second controller and you could push start and select on the second controller and it would glitch out and you could then float anywhere you want. And so what I would do is I would control Pink Panther, float around, and then if you would push L on the controller, he would go invincible and he couldn't be hurt. So my dad would make him, invincible, and then I would just like play the game so I could never die. Anyway, I have a lot of these little
Okay.
random ass stories.
That sounds right.
I don't remember glitching anything on purpose.
I remember like cheat codes.
I remember cheat codes,
But
sure, but like
glitching,
even
no.
then we didn't really know much about them because we weren't the kids that looked for this type of information. Nor did we talk to a lot of other kids, so like we didn't.
Well,
we
you
never,
probably
like-
don't want to cheese your way through anything when you only have 5 games. You want to
Right.
savor the flavor.
We didn't use cheat code. I think the only game we ever learned that there were, I actually don't even know. I'm trying to remember if we ever used cheat codes. My sister might know. I'd have to ask her.
The only other one I remember was in Yoshi's Story, and it's not even a cheat. Yeah, it was a cheat code. If you plugged in a second controller, again, you could enter in a combination of buttons, and then it would open up a different menu where you could do like multiplayer stuff.
I'm looking up the name of this game.
Let's see.
And I'm trying to remember because I can think about it, but yeah, no, it's not coming up in this list. It'll come to me eventually. This game that I played a bunch.
What was it? Do you remember anything about it? I mean, obviously you do, but
I'm just gonna look. Oh, there's Pink Goes to Hollywood. Pink Panther. I'm looking at this giant list of games and seeing weird things like Chester Cheetah games. I'm like, I didn't remember that he had his own video games.
I do. I remember the box art for that. Yeah, I remember that. I'm gonna look that up. That's true. And obviously, there's Link to the Past, Harvest Moon, very, very important games.
That I did not play. I
But they're
remember
so
going
good.
to a friend's house who had Zelda because I remember the cartridge. And I think we only played it for like that hour at the party. And then we left and never thought about it again.
Man, oh man.
But I do remember because I remember the cartridge. I remember being like, wow, this cartridge looks crazy because it was gold. And
Wait, a Link to the Past?
no, I don't know which one it was. It was a Zelda game.
It must have been N64. Ocarina of Time.
I don't know. I just remember the color of the cartridge and that it was Zelda.
Okay, it's probably Ocarina of Time. That was, I believe, unless it was NES, because those were gold.
Maybe it was NES.
Okay, but anyway, I
Again,
could talk about this
all I
fucking all
remember
day,
is the
so
gold
someone needs to stop
cartridge.
me.
We could talk about this all day, but we have been talking about it for quite a while so far. But Brittany, before we put a pin in this conversation, and hopefully you guys will let us know what some of your favorite games are, do you have one last game you want to make sure we talk about in our conversation about the Super Nintendo Entertainment System?
I want to give a big fat shout out to Mario Paint. That was a good one.
Man, I totally
Yeah.
forgot about Mario Paint.
I feel like that's so on brand for you.
I mean, it really is.
Mario Paint is so cool because it came with a mouse and you had to get the little what do you call it? A mouse pad. It was just plastic and you could just it was so cool about it is you could paint. It was like Microsoft Paint, but I feel like it had more features even way back then. And what
Maybe my MS Paint should be replaced with Mario Paint.
dude, seriously. And you could also make little animations too. You could draw a trail for an object to follow. So I would make little like Mario skits where you can make Mario jump across blocks. They also had the
What?
fly swatting game,
Wait,
which is so
was
good.
there a way to get this off the console into?
Oh, dude, I remember this so
The
much.
music, fucking music is so good. Like the intro music too is like really good. And well, they had different kind of music you could play. So this might not be what people remember because you could play out, but it's the opening music.
Oh wait, is that music coming? No.
What is
Oh, it's
it?
coming from. I'm sorry. This is F-Zero music playing in the background.
Yeah,
I was like, what's happening?
This is the music she wants.
It's like Muppet.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
I was like, this makes more sense for a painting
Yeah.
game. The other one was a little weird.
Here.
oh, the paintbrush filling it up takes so long.
I was like, that sounds like a woodpecker. My question is, could you make things in this still to this day and get it off of that console and into the internet?
Oh, God, no, huh? I mean, I don't think so.
Oh my gosh.
You could
love
actually. You
this
could
game.
record. You could capture.
We could capture it
Oh,
now.
I see what you're
Capture it
saying.
and then
Oh,
like
yeah.
make
Screenshot
GIFs
it?
of it.
I thought you meant back
And
then.
have
That would
MS
be
Paint
fucking
GIFs.
awesome. I love that game so much. And the fly swatting, you could just do so many cool things in that. Yeah.
Is there a way to play that now with that? You would probably just have to hook up your original SNES, right? There's
I
no
don't-
unless you get
they-
it in like a ROM or
They
something,
didn't
right?
put it in the classic, I assume.
No.
Mm-mm,
Then,
they did
yeah,
not.
No, you'd
Is it-
have to hook up your original.
Yeah.
somehow.
Was it ever available in Virtual Console on the Wii or the Wii U?
No, I don't think so.
How did that person record it?
This
ROM?
is clear. This is clearly component cable, right?
Mm.
This is what it looks like. It's like they pulled it right from a component
Oh, sure.
because it's in 4x3.
God, Mario Paint's so good. And the music is so good, G. So good. And oh, wait. And also, didn't Mario Paint have the music maker in it? I believe it
don't know,
did.
girl.
Oh, my
Probably.
God. Hold on. Okay.
It is available on emulator.games if you wanted to play it there. There's a bunch of ROM downloads, of course. on
Yeah.
it.
Mario Paint had a composing thing where you could make songs with symbols from Mario games. So, oh my God. Jesus Christ, that game was so good. This is something someone made.
We've now inspired some creativity. Brittany's going to figure out how to get Mario Paint going.
Okay, keep going. This is Bohemian Rhapsody. Keep going. I'm done.
Wow, they made Bohemian Rhapsody in Mario Paint?
Yeah, and so if you look, this is how it looks. It's all these symbols. All of these
Oh my
symbols
god, they're all different notes.
and they're all different notes, and you can just compile, and it has a bunch of pre-made songs in there. And
I remember doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not remember doing that, but that's amazing.
Oh my God,
Yeah, it was ahead of its time, you know?
so good. The original Mario.
It's the original Dreams.
Exactly. If that game ever comes out, hopefully. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for our secret segment for the month of November. We hope you guys enjoyed this trip down memory lane, talking about our favorite Super NES games of all time. As I said, please let us know what yours are. Leave a comment below. Post us a comment on the Patreon page. And we hope you guys enjoy and have a lovely afternoon, evening, or morning, wherever it may be. Goodbye.